Welcome to the Boss Podcast, the best of social selling. Your host, Mark McInnes, Australia's #1 social seller, brings you expert opinion, tactics, and discussion to help you get more out of your time on social.
As it turned out, chatting with Dino Pacella was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. That's not to say I ever thought it was going to be a dull conversation. It's more the depth and the detail that he went into explaining his social strategy to him. You see, Dino has well over 120,000 followers across 5 or 6 social platforms, and you don't get to 120,000 social followers without a clear strategy. If you listen carefully, you can hear me taking notes as Dino outlines his strategy to me. There are a couple of other things I learned from Dino. One of them was just do it, and 2, never ask a person with 5 or 6 strong social profiles what's the best way to get in contact with you. Their answer could take quite some time. We did have some audio connectivity challenges towards the end of the session. I hope they clean up okay. And I know you'll enjoy this episode of the Boss Podcast, From Social Disaster to Social Master, with Dino Pacella. Okay, welcome to the Boss Podcast, the podcast that helps you become better at using social for sales and lead generation. Today, we have another in what we call our expert series. This is where we bring in an expert to tell us about a particular aspect of the social space. So, of course, we need an expert. So today, we're lucky enough to have Dino Pacella. How are you, Dino?
Mark, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great, mate, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. I have to say, when I was building out the origins of this show and drawing up the outline, you were one of the first people who I thought I needed to chat to. So in the true sense of the word, the Boss Podcast, best of social selling, you're an absolute boss as far as I'm concerned in the Australian space.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. I am smiling and I'm probably blushing, so it's good that there's no video today.
No problem. So, mate, I was just doing a bit of research, and I was surprised that we've only been connected since 2018. I feel like we've been connected a lot longer than that on LinkedIn. And I've seen you do some really cool stuff over the last couple of years, and you seem to have really accelerated your social work in the last couple of years. Would that be correct? Or
yeah, I think you're spot on, Mark. I think when we connected, that was probably the turning point for me. So it was around 21 months ago where I've really started investing a lot more time into the social game.
Okay, well, cool. So can you give us a bit of an outline, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? And
Yeah, absolutely. So I've worked in banking and finance for the last 17 years, so through direct channel through major banks in Australia. And then I moved into the broker channel as a business development manager, and I've been doing that for the last 7 years. So I'm a big advocate, and I've got a very, very deep passion for what brokers bring to the Australian market. And I'm always advertising and talking about what brokers are doing and the benefits that consumers get when they use a finance broker. That's one of my passions. The other passion that I have is obviously across social. So LinkedIn is the platform of choice that I use, and I use consistently, and I invest a lot of time into that. But I'm also expanding out into the other social channels. So YouTube's become a new baby of mine recently, and I'm learning a lot from people on there as well. It's not just about uploading and dumping a video. It's getting all different aspects and learning new skills and new hobbies from a range of people. So that's why I love social so much.
Okay, so I'm interested to explore the YouTube angle with you a little bit further down the line. But can you tell us what got you started? So you said that something happened 22 months ago, you became a social guru. What was the turning point? Yeah,
I was on social probably for about 4 years prior to that. So I've been on it now for 6 years, on and off for the first 4. But when I first started, I was in the business development manager role. I was in a large organisation back then, and somebody was talking to me about LinkedIn, and they said, "Dino, you're not on it much, are you?" I went, "Nah, I just look at it now and then," because we had all our broker partners given to us, so there was no real cold calling or cold selling that was part of the job back then. And a lot of it was all those warm introductions, so people knew of you, they had your details through our organisation, and it was just a matter of keeping them up to date with our offerings and our products and services. So this gentleman goes, "Listen, don't you want to do more than that across LinkedIn?" And I went, "Yeah, I do, but what do I do on there?" He goes, "Well, showcase what you're doing and showcase that you're better than every other BDM out there in the market. And I went, okay, but what do I do? Do I just do a post to say, hey, call me because I'll get back to you and other BDMs don't? and I was so lost, Mark. I was going, yeah, okay, I just don't get it. I didn't get it. And he goes, well, no, promote what you're doing if you're out having meetings, if you're out winning awards, if the company's won an award, go out and promote that. And I went, oh, okay. I said, is that what this branding game is all about, promoting yourself? And he goes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I went, oh, okay, that sounds good. So for the first 3 or 4 years, that's all I did, Mark. And for people who may be listening who have followed me from that long ago would know exactly what I'm talking about. So I look like a real, keep my language as clean as possible. I look very arrogant, let's just put it that way, for the first 4 years across the platform, because all I posted, Mark, was about me and the wonderful things I was doing. And that's what I thought branding was, right? Okay, fast forward to 21 months ago, so a couple of years back, after the first 4 years, somebody rang me. I had a bit of a chat with them because they gave me some feedback around my brand. And then I met this gentleman when I went to Sydney a couple of months afterwards, and now we're great friends. But he was giving me some real honest feedback around people that he was meeting in the network that I didn't know, but were talking to him about my presence on the platform within the broker industry. And I tell you what, it wasn't very positive, and it was hard to hear.
Is that right?
It's hard when people. Oh, I tell you, yeah, it was. It was.
Sorry to interrupt there, mate. Is that because you were just basically waving your flag without providing any value, like in the social space?
That's exactly what I.
Okay, and you got negative responses.
I did, and the community grew because I don't look at follower accounts. I look at the network and the community I'm building, and it grew very slowly, and the engagement was slow there. So I went, oh, okay. So if he's giving me feedback from people I've never met, why don't I actually call up some people who are engaging on my profile and my posts and see what they actually think as well? And I tell you what, 9 out of 10 people gave me the same feedback. I had to push for it. I just said, listen, can you be honest? You're not going to hurt my feelings. And it was the same feedback. And I went, shit, maybe I need to do something about my brand, because the brand I'm portraying isn't me and it's not what I want to put out there in the market. So then 20 months ago, I started going, well, no, I'm going to stop this. And I reached out to some branding experts and I said, hey, how do we change this? How do we change the perception of people? Because when people are meeting me, they're saying, oh, you're not as arrogant and ego as I thought you would be. And I thought, okay, well, that's not what my brand's all about. So then I basically said, well, that's it. Let's share a little bit about who I am. And I call that now around breaking down my egotistical wall, Mark, and share about who I actually am. So I share about family, I share about past experiences, past business failures that I've had. And a lot of that business development and sales may only make up 10 to 15% of the content that I put out there now. And ever since I did that, it's changed my whole social game. It's flipped it on its head.
I'll be really interested to explore that change. I think that's really valuable because I'm sure you still see people, and I certainly do, where they're just doing that flag waving. I do believe that it's still damaging a lot of people's quality of their social interaction. So just to give everybody a bit of context, so you're running at about 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, 3,400 on Facebook, I think, 1,200 on YouTube, and 1,300 on Twitter. Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right, Mark. Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything that I've missed there? Or
there's Instagram that I go on daily. I think they may be on about 14,000, I think.
Okay. Yep. So I have missed Instagram. So your social following's quite heavy. Like it's a lot stronger than most people, just so that people have got an understanding when you're talking about building your brand and the interaction, they can get some numbers around that. I think that's important. So as your time as a finance professional, Dino, what sort of results were you typically able to achieve using social? Give us some proof, if you like, that social works for Dino or has worked for Dino.
Yeah, okay. That's probably an easier one to answer, Mark, because the proof's there. The first big one that I had was my passion through finance brokers. I've established National Finance Brokers Day, so that's in its 5th year this year. But the first year, I really wanted somebody that the public knew to come on board and help me build the awareness outside of the broker industry and really build it to the general public. And someone that I knew at Yellow Brick Road said, oh, why don't you actually reach out to Mark Burris? who's the executive chairman there, and people know him off the Mentor and all of those. And other people are going, well, yeah, Mark's not going to do that, and Mark costs this and Mark costs that, and he's not going to do it free of charge for you. And I went, well, no, I'll ask him, because I'm not monetizing the Brokers Day. It's all about showcasing my passion for it. And a couple of messages through LinkedIn, and Mark reached out and he goes, yep, let's have a chat about this further. 2 months later, I was in Sydney doing a video interview with Mark all around the Brokers Day, and him sharing his value of what brokers bring as well. Ever since then, Mark and I are now friends, and every time the Broker Day initiative comes around every year, Mark jumps on board and gives up his time, whether that's a face-to-face event or via an online podcast or video interview, and will come on board and do that for me. And I've always been told that I'm very, very special, because Mark doesn't do that for everybody. So that's something that I think building a network and building the right purpose around your network and the right messaging gets people to join that network and come on the right journey for you. That's one of them. Did you want some financial examples off the back of that, Mark?
That's a great example. What about on a day-to-day basis? How are you able to leverage your profile, whether it be results, meetings achieved, that sort of thing? Like, what were the benefits of having such a high social profile for you in relation to your roles in the finance space?
I'll answer that into when I moved over to Capify, who does short-term unsecured business funding, in comparison to when I worked for a major lender or a major bank. The difference was there is that going to Capify, they weren't part of any aggregator group. So for people who are listening, brokers have a license with an aggregator or a part of an aggregation group, and the aggregation group holds the license with the bank or the lender. Okay? So when I used to work for Suncorp, we had a portfolio of brokers who were all accredited with their aggregator. So they were automatically part of my portfolio. So getting in front of somebody, they were promoting Suncorp products to their database, to their clients. So it was easy to get in front of them and keep them up to date with our products. When I moved over to Capify, there was no warm introduction. We had no portfolio because we weren't accredited with any aggregators. So a lot of brokers didn't know who I was. So when I moved over from Perth to Brisbane to look after the Queensland market along with the WA market, I used the LinkedIn platform to reach out to a lot of brokers across Brisbane, to introduce myself, to ask for a face-to-face meeting and get in front of them and understand what they're doing in their business, as well as give them a download of the products that we can have and that they can put onto their suite. The beauty of doing it off LinkedIn, Mark, is people can read that, but then within 1 second, they can actually click on your profile and see who you are. Where off an email, people can't do that. So I was getting a lot of traction. I was opening up a lot of doors to new referral partners, bringing them onto my portfolio, where the business was generating, I can't recall the numbers now because it was 3-4 months ago, but they were generating some great numbers for the company and really making my portfolio extremely strong. So I think with that large network and that large community, and when people are seeing you regularly, you're automatically switching that cold introduction into that warm introduction because people know of you. And I think that becomes extremely powerful when you try to open new doors.
Yeah, look, I absolutely agree. I find that the stronger your social profile is, it certainly can reach a lot further than what you think. So, it's often surprising when people know who you are, or they know your name, or, they've seen something of you on LinkedIn, and it makes that first cold conversation, if you like, significantly easier, whether it be in a social aspect or more of a sales aspect. It can be really, really helpful. So you're a bit of a branding expert, aren't you? So did you have a bit of a branding coaching business at some point?
I did. I finished off with Suncorp. I moved into, I started a branding business. It was purely around personal branding. And that only came about because I was getting people asking me, how do I do this? And what should I be focusing on? And I was helping people over the weekend build their brands, particularly across LinkedIn more than any other platform. But it got to the point where my entire weekend was taken up by 6 or 7 Zoom calls on the Saturday and then another 6 or 7 on the Sunday. So I said, well, maybe there's an opportunity here to do this full time and share my knowledge to more people. So I did that, and it was fantastic. There was nothing wrong with the business, but there's a short shelf life when it comes to helping people with their brand. I always looked at it in the sense that when you go out and learn to drive a car for the first time, you do 3 or 4 months worth of lessons, and then you get your license and you can drive by yourself. That was my approach to teaching people how to build their brand across LinkedIn. You can teach somebody as many skills, as many traits, as much knowledge as you can do. Once they start putting that action into place and it becomes a habit for them, then you let them go and they're on their way. So it's not clients that I'm keeping for a year or two. They were 3 or 4 months on their journey, and then they would go and do it themselves. So that business was going really well. I went back into a BDM role, one, because, again, that's a passion of mine, but secondly, there was an opportunity to look after Queensland and a WA portfolio. And from a personal aspect, my partner is originally from Brisbane. So we had an opportunity to move to Brisbane, as well as me fly regularly to Perth every 2 to 3 weeks, where my 2 teenage daughters live with my ex-wife. So from a personal aspect, it ticked all the boxes, and I loved Capify and the culture they had there and the people. So for me to move back into the BDM role, into the finance game, was an easy decision.
Okay, that's interesting. So what I'd really like to do today is to give the listeners some really tactical information that they can take from this conversation and go and apply a couple of things. Can you tell us a little bit about your social routine? If, maybe what you do on a day or a weekly sort of basis and how you structure your social interaction, and then give us enough granular detail so that people can apply some of those steps. I don't expect you to give away all of your secrets, although that'd be great if you would. But, if you want to hold something back, I understand. But, just so that people can get an understanding about the sorts of things that you do and the sorts of things that they might like to do if they wanted to replicate your strategy, your approach.
Yeah, no problems. I'm an open book, Mark, so if I don't explain or describe something as well as I should do, please ask me to rephrase it. There's no secrets that I keep in my little golden chest at home that nobody else knows, because really you could Google 99% of branding and I'm sure you could find answers and do it. But I always tell people, I suppose it's in the actions that you're going to do it, right? Anyone can learn something, but without putting it into practice, it's probably a waste of time. My routine, it's probably a weekly routine more than a daily, even though the daily actions come into play. I'll run through exactly what I'll do and I'll describe it. So if people get a A4 piece of paper and a pen handy, I'll describe what my strategy looks like. And you can write this down because it's really, really simple. People will go, well, I'm not going to write that whole strategy because it's going to be complex. And it's not. You'll probably be surprised, Mark, how bloody simple this is. So what I do Monday mornings, I'm an early riser, so I'm up at about 4 o'clock. So between 4 and 6, I have the house free, nobody's up. So my first 2 hours of the start of the week all becomes around my social media strategy. And I get my A4 piece of paper out. And yes, I use pen and paper because it's a live document throughout the week and I'm easy just to do some scratchings on it. So what I do, it's called my PPE strategy. And people may have heard this explained before, but what it is it's a table on this A4 piece of paper. It has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on it. So you've got that in a table, and then through different rows, you will have preparation time, posting time, and engagement time. So you could imagine your table, columns of days, rows with those 3 headings. And what it looks like is on the top of it, I've always got an hour count of how much time I can invest into my brand for those particular days. So Monday, I know every Monday I can at least put 4 hours aside on my brand, and that's between 4 to 6 a.m. And then I know I can do another 7 to 9 p.m. So above Monday, I've got 4 hours. Tuesday, it may change. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's a lot for one day for most people, isn't it?
It is. This is mine. This is a strategy that I use to help clients, and it ranged anywhere from 30 minutes to 6 hours for some people.
Perfect.
So whatever time you can invest, and I suppose pull out your calendar, have a look at what meetings you've got on that week, what if you may be having to run kids to sporting events, or maybe not now, but you will do. Whatever you have on throughout that week, fit your branding around that, but ensure that you're doing something every single day. Okay? So mine could have been 4 hours on Monday. It could be 5 hours on Tuesday. It could only be 2.5 hours on Wednesday. But you get the idea here. And all of that time was around fitting it into that day. But having something that enabled me to enjoy the time that I was doing into it. So if I had an extremely busy day of 12, 13 hours, and we've all done those days, then listen, if I'm only going to do half an hour, I'll do half an hour, but I'm not going to stress myself out to say I want to do 2 hours that day, because then my quality would fall over, my content would become extremely poor, and obviously then it's going to start damaging my brand. So fit that into the lifestyle.
So, Dino, can you tell me exactly what it is that you're doing? So when you're saying you're building your brand, what is it that you're doing at that point? Are you recording videos? Are you posting things? What are you doing?
So from that PPE strategy, so on the preparation time, if I've got the 4 hours on the Monday, I'll split 50% of that time into my preparation. So I'll put 2 hours into getting content creative. So whether that's videos, whether that's writing a blog, whether it's recording a podcast, whether it's creating a picture post, whatever that may be, that becomes half of the available time I have on that particular day to invest into my brand through content creation. Then the other 50% of the time, only 1 or 2% of it's going to be the actual posting of my content on that day. So I normally post in the morning between 5 and 6 a.m. and then I'll post again in the evening between 7 to 8:30 p.m. So I'll have those times blocked for particular days, but they change on each day. So it's good to keep analytics around your brand and your posts, because you'll need to know which or what time and what days work for your audience best. So a Saturday is going to be completely different to a Tuesday, or a Sunday may be completely different to a Friday. And you need to do that, but you need that consistent approach to posting and keeping that data when it comes to looking back on it and going, what's working well for me? What does my audience want to know more of? Because when I used to wave that flag, the analytics were extremely poor. When I changed it, it went through the roof. So I know people want more of that.
Okay. And so can we just swap notes very quickly? So I find LinkedIn works very well for me Monday and Tuesday early evenings. Is that consistent with what you find?
Definitely, I find that on on Tuesday through to Thursday, that evening works best. Even a Monday to a degree, because people, I suppose, are just starting their week off on the Monday morning and don't have as much time as the evening. I find the Friday not as much. People seem to be clocking off, and it's all about the social aspect come the Friday evening. Sunday, yes, but then Saturday, I seem to find that mid-morning seems to work well. Like people have spent some time with the kids, and then it's the old time where we used to get out the newspaper mark.
I have to agree. I mean, we haven't swapped notes here or anything, but I find that I get the best engagement in exactly those time frames. Sunday afternoon, mid-morning Saturday. I find Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoons, even early evenings to be very, very good. Friday is probably my weakest day. I actually use Friday as my telephone day. I find I get very good results ringing people up Friday afternoon.
Yes, absolutely.
This is really valuable, so please keep going, mate. This is great.
Where was I on that strategy? I did the preparation and the timing, and then the last one was the engagement piece. This is critical, and so that's going to make up around 48% of the available time you have on that day. And when I talk about engagement, there's two aspects to it. There's one, so if I'm on my Tuesday morning time slot, I will need to go back and reply to comments from my Monday night post if I haven't done so already on Monday night, or catch up on those. And listen, I'm not perfect at this, because sometimes and I'll be honest, Mark, sometimes there's too many comments for me to reply on every single one. So then I'll take an approach, unless there's a question being asked or there's a long-winded comment where I can add some further value off the back of my post, then I will engage further on that. If it's somebody saying, hey, thank you for that post, or great post, or this really inspired me, it may be hard to get to 100 of those if I'm posting daily. And to squash any myths, I don't have any PAs that do my branding for me. I don't have a videographer that runs around with me every single day, though I wish I did. Maybe that's the next aspect, which would be fantastic. But it's that engagement piece on your own post. And then the second aspect of it is the engagement that you leave on other people's posts. And I say this in the sense that you don't want to be leaving a 2 or 3 word response and saying, hey, great post, even though I'm guilty of doing it in the past. But it's more around leaving comments in the way that you post. So if you're posting always to share information, to add value, to help people, if you can comment the same way on somebody else's posts and that person has 50, 60 comments, I tell you what, your comment will stand out above the crowd through thick and thin, regardless what other people are commenting on, because 1 out of 100 people will comment their way on LinkedIn because it's so busy, it's so noisy. They don't have the time to invest another 5 minutes to leave a real value add comment. But if you're doing that consistently, particularly if that person has great engagement on their post, then you're opening yourself up to a whole new audience, a whole new network off the back of that person. And that, I feel, is when your brand starts really getting some traction. And you can keep a track of that off LinkedIn. So write some scratch markings on your A4 piece of paper around how your profile views are going. And you can see your profile views for the last 90 days on the free platform mark. You don't have to pay for it, right? And then write down how your posts have been going, the views, the shares, the comments, the likes, what's it all been like? And then file away those A4 sheets of paper every single week and then pull them out every 2 months and just have a look how they're going. Is your network growing? When did it grow quick? What was the timing of the post? What was the post like? And then all of a sudden, I tell you what, that's how you get really targeted and strategic with your posts, because you'll know then on Sunday, I'm not going to post about a new product offering. I'll post that on a Tuesday. You'll understand what works well and what doesn't on what days, and more in particular, what time of those days. Does that sort of build an image of how I do it?
Yeah, you're very strategic compared to a lot of other people that I speak to. So a lot of people are a lot more haphazard than that. So it's pretty obvious why you've done so well. There's a couple of things I'd like to explore with you, and that is, one, how do you decide what content to put up? And two, with so many followers across so many platforms, how do you stay in contact with so many people? My connection strategy is to hold my connections tight and try not to build out too many so that I can interact with as many of those as possible. And I fear that if I grow my network too large and too wide, that I won't be able to engage with those people successfully. You've got a significant amount of people following you. How can you keep them all engaged at the same time?
Yeah, it's a bloody good question, Mark. and it's difficult. Don't let me pretend that it's all sunshine and rainbows and I sit here every day and I get back to every single person and every single comment, because I'd be lying if I said I did. But off that flip side, the reason, so people would know off LinkedIn, you can only have a maximum of 30,000 first-degree connections, and then you need to follow that person. So I'm a big believer as well that I'll follow people. If I can't send them a personalised invite request, I'm more than happy to show them in my newsfeed and follow them. But the reason or the strategy around for me for growing that first-degree connections to 30,000 was all around that National Brokers Day from 5.5 years ago. I wanted as many brokers to be aware of it. I wanted as many brokers to share the post, to comment on my post, to build it, because ideally then that industry would win. And the industry is winning from a consumer perspective. So it's doing fantastically well. And I wanted to do my little part to help that along that journey. So now that I've reached 30,000, it's all around, if people like the content, that little button where it's normally got invite on my profile, I've had to change that to follow. I don't really like that word follow. I'd rather join. Rather have it join my network or something would sound a lot better if LinkedIn would change it. But then people now follow you. So people do that. But again, it's a part of that engagement time I put, Mark. Like I'll wake up and there may be 30 or 40 invite requests sent through outside of the followers. So what I'll do then is I'll send each of them a personalised message, because I can message people through LinkedIn if they've sent you an invite request, even though they're not a first-degree connection. So I'll message them and I'll say, unfortunately, I can't accept a connection request because I've reached the LinkedIn limit. But if you'd like to follow me, let me know. I'd be more than welcome to. It'd be great to have you in my network. And it's something along the lines of that. And each person will get that. But that's, yes, that may be a copy and paste message, but I'll put the person's name in it. I'll always place their name on it. And that'll probably take me 15, 20 minutes as part of my engagement time every morning. So every single person will at least get that message if they can't connect with me because of the LinkedIn limit.
Yep. The reason why I'm scared, and I'm going to use that word scared, is because I've had some horror stories from people that do have, as many connections as you, and some have got more, and they've just basically told me that their ability to be able to use the platform effectively has been significantly diminished. So that can be a bit of a challenge. Or that's what I'm worried about, is that being a bit of a challenge.
And it's, I suppose it's a fair call, and it does get busy on there. But then if you're the algorithm on any platform, the more you engage on somebody's post, the more the algorithm's going to show you that person's content, correct? Listen, I'll engage on people. There's not many new people on there that I'll start engaging with unless it's adding some real value to what I'm doing. The people that I'm constantly engaging on may be 30 or 40. So I'm always seeing their content pop up in my feed because part of that engagement time is scrolling through that feed and leaving comments. So but I'm investing then an hour and 58 minutes for engagement time nearly every single day.
Yep.
Right? So I understand when you say, Mark, there's that little fear factor going on. Geez, if I don't have that time and I only have 15 minutes to scroll through and have a look and have a read through, then yes, it is a fair point. And I suppose you need to look at your objective when it comes to branding. Is that worth growing the network even larger or not?
So jumping back to the second part of that question, which was content. So how do you make a decision what to post and when? Is there a process around that? How do you work that out?
I have a process, believe it or not, surprise, surprise. I'm a planning type of guy, Mark, if you haven't realised already, but I'm sure you know that. So on that A4 sheet of paper, Mark, I have a strategy when it comes to the type of content I place out there and the content mix I place out there as well. So I've got 3 different boxes that I write through. The first one is the business content that I place out or the corporate content, and that'll make up 10% of the content that I'll place out for the week. The second box is all about my drivers. I call it drivers, but they may be drivers that are around my motivational quotes or inspirational aspects that may help people, or sharing a little bit of that about my journey that's helped me to get to where I am today. And then the third box, I call it the H to H. So it's all about, you can either look at this from a human to human aspect or a heart to heart aspect. That makes up half of the content I now place out. And I suppose that was a turning point from 20 months ago. I'll give people an example of what a heart to heart post is. That's you without that egotistical wall in front of you. So if I wanted to share something about my children or my children, I've learned something from raising children or being divorced for 7 years and I've got a new partner now, and I've learned something along that where I can help people. And that's truly a human-to-human approach, right? That's got nothing to do with me providing a business development tip or me providing a broker tip. It's all about me and me alone. And I'm trying to put more and more content in there. I've got those 3 boxes placed on my A4 piece of paper every single week. And then off the back of that, well, off the side of that, I should say, is the content type that I have. So when I'm placing or preparing content, I'll need to make a decision. Does a text post perform better on a Monday or is that better on a Saturday morning? And then when am I going to put a video content on there? When am I going to put a picture post on there? Or when am I going to write a long-winded blog that's more than 1,300 characters on LinkedIn? Because you won't be able to put it into a normal post. And then you write down which one I'm placing on which day. So for me, I know a video may work sometimes better on a Wednesday afternoon, or it may work better on a Sunday evening because people have that extra 30, 40 seconds to watch a video rather than on a Monday morning where they will not have time to watch a video because they're too busy cranking up the start of their week. So off the back of that whole strategy that I have, the bottom has the 3 boxes with the content type and then the content mixture of what I'm placing for the week as well. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I'll wing a content and I'll wing a piece and then I'll simply remove that from my weekly strategy and place it onto next week's strategy. So you should always have probably 2, maybe 3 pieces of paper which has your strategies for 3 weeks in advance going. And then whenever you think of something, or you may be out and about, or Mark, I'm chatting to you and you share something great with me that I can put into my own words and share with my own audience, maybe like this podcast, then that goes on to my strategy for next week or the week after. So all of a sudden, I get to Monday the following week, and out of my 14 pieces of content that I want to put out, I may already have filled out 7 or 8 of them.
Okay. So can you just summarize? You said, did I catch that correctly when you said about 10% of your content is business?
Correct.
And so what was the breakup? The heart-to-heart stuff, how much was that?
The heart-to-heart was 50%.
Yep. And the remaining 40?
I call them driver contents.
Drivers, that's right. Okay, interesting. Good stuff. Okay, so what are your thoughts around social? Do you think social is getting better in its present format, or have we seen the best days of social already? So are the good days ahead of us, or have we already seen the best come and go? What's your thoughts?
It's a really interesting area. I look at it from an aspect that if you're just starting out on social, it's certainly an exciting time to do it now, depending on which platforms you're going to be using, because if you are starting out, you probably don't want to be tackling 4 or 5 at once. But if you're tackling one, and if we talk about LinkedIn, because I spend most of the time on there, it's a great time to jump on there because the amount of users that are on there, the search capabilities that it's building up, and the new tools that are being released across the platform that weren't there a year ago or 2 years ago. And I'm talking about things like LinkedIn Live. Yes, Facebook and Insta's had it and YouTube has it, but LinkedIn never had that LinkedIn Live. And it's only getting better as they, I suppose, work out the nuts and bolts of how to actually engage audiences a lot better across the platform. So, yes, I don't think the golden days of social media have gone. I think it's continuing to get better.
It's definitely a constant evolution. And I mean, LinkedIn leads that way, leads the social media platform as far as constant changes, I believe. They've always got something new coming out. You've certainly got to stay on top of your game if you want to be at the front of the social media platforms, that's for sure. So I guess we'll close with the one question that I ask people, and that's if you think about the listeners that are listening into this podcast and you were able to give them one piece of advice from all the things that you've spoken about so far, what would be the most valuable single thing they should go and take action on?
That's something that I probably tackle every week now. And it's, for me, if I had to share something and tell people, is get out of your own way when it comes to getting across social and building your brand. And I know, don't get me wrong, that is easier said than done. But you need to remove that fear factor on thinking, oh my God, what are people going to think of me if I do this video? Or what are people going to think of me if I write about this in the market at the moment? And I tell you, the best way to overcome this fear is, yes, simply do it. But if you want to share it with your close circle of friends and pick 3 or 4, just share it with them. And it's not about getting as much feedback and honest feedback, because someone will always pick something out because it's not perfect. But it's that action of saying, listen, I'm going to do it. And then you've sent it to somebody. So Mark, if I was just starting on my journey, I would reach out to you. You go, Mark, I'm going to do a video. I haven't done a video before. I'm going to send it to you by 5 o'clock tonight. If I haven't done that, can you give me a call and let me know where it is? So then all of a sudden, I've made myself publicly accountable to you because I said I'm going to deliver a video, which then gets my butt off the couch to go do it, record it, send it to you, and then all of a sudden I've done the hard part. Now I can get out of my way, create some great text to go along with that, and then post it. And as soon as people take that first step, the floodgates will open and your mind will start switching into content creation. And as soon as you've done that and gotten out of your own way and stopped worrying about what bloody people think of you, because you know what? No one cares about what you really. Yes, people care about what you're writing, but in your own mind around your fear factor, people don't care about that. People don't care that you're scared that you don't put a video. They don't care. They just want to see your content. So give it to them. And if they don't like it, they won't engage on it or they'll block you. Big deal. There's always other people out there that will like what you've got to say. So just turn up every day and go and hold yourself publicly accountable. And that can be on just getting started, or it can be on if you use social media consistently every single day and you've been doing it for years. If you want to hold yourself accountable to do a live with somebody, then promote it out there to your audience. And you know what? You can't back out then. You don't have a back door to go exiting because you've told everybody that you're going to do it. Now you must do it. So put those little actions into place for yourself. If you're one that's a person that can't follow through or is not good at that, or you always procrastinate, hopefully that'll help people on that one. It's a long-winded response, Mark, but it's what I used to do and it's helped me wonders.
Well, I think that's a great way for people to get started. So, I mean, you're right. People spend so much time scared, not taking action, this is a great way for people to be able to go, you know what, here's my stake in the ground, let's get started. Because you've got to make a start before it can get better. You know, like your first time you do anything, it's rubbish, right? So, like you said, get out of your own way.
Exactly right.
So I think I'd love to have you back at some point, Dino, and maybe if you're prepared to share, you know, the technology and the bits and pieces that you use, like a more in-depth sort of technical conversation around what tools you use to create your videos and that sort of stuff. I was just thinking about that while you're explaining it. I think that might be valuable for a lot of listeners as well, if you're interested.
I'm more than happy to, Mark, but mine's a very basic from the tech side. I'm no tech guru, but more than happy to share what I use and what I do.
Well, thank you very much. So in closing, which platform, how would people that are listening to this and for somehow they're not connected with you, which are probably very few, but what's the best way for them to get in contact with you? Is there a preferred platform? Give us a rundown. How would they do that?
LinkedIn's obviously the main platform I'm on. So if you're a first degree connection of mine, you can send me a direct message through the messaging side of LinkedIn. If we're not connected, my contact details are public. So my mobile number's not on there, but my email address is. So you can send me an email from the LinkedIn profile. Alternatively, if you're on Instagram, you can send me a message through there. You don't need to be connected with me or following me on Instagram to do that. Twitter's the same. Facebook as well is the same. Otherwise, off the new YouTube channel that I'm working on, you can search under Dino Pacella, and I don't think there are any other Dino Pacellas on YouTube, so you should pop up on the top of your search results.
So lots of ways to get in contact with you. That's fantastic. Mate, I really appreciate you coming and sharing all of that detail. I can see why you're so successful. There's so much strategy, but at the same time, it's simple strategy. It's almost just good social sense. So I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been great.
Okay, thanks, mate. And for those listeners, really appreciate you listening in this week. Feel free to give us a rating on your podcast supplier, whether that be Apple Pod or Google Pod or whatever the case may be. And we'll catch you all again next week. Thank you very much.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, don't forget, you can help many other sales and marketing professionals simply by providing a rating for this show on iTunes or wherever you find your podcast. It really makes a big difference. Thanks for listening to the Boss Podcast. Join us next time for even more tactics, discussion, and ideas to help you improve your social outreach.